One of the most powerful life hacks in a world that is continuously getting more polarized is remembering to be flexible and open-minded about how we treat various points of view, and to learn what perspective we ourselves are currently looking at the world from, what values we live by, what our worldview is, and realizing, thus analyzing them, that they are not the only way of looking at the world. That all perspectives have various partial truths and are therefore worthy of honoring, worthy of study, and worthy of integrating into one's own psyche and way of understanding life and the world. There's a quote by developmental psychologist Ken Wilber, who created integral psychology, integral theory, a developmental framework of how the human psyche evolves through various value systems, where he says that nobody is smart enough to be wrong all the time, and that everyone has a partial truth. In fact, he says everyone is right. Everyone has some partial truth and can teach us something, can enlarge our understanding of the world. And we, by keeping this principle in mind, can enormously benefit from this, because it will open our minds to new books we can read, new people we can listen to, new activities we can pursue in life, whole new ways of understanding reality and the universe. Because it is so easy to get lost in one's perspective. And nowadays, with the culture wars and all the debating going on online, and the polarizations that have happened, the siloing of people, I find it very sad and difficult to see that this beautiful tool, the internet, has been contributing to lots of culture wars and fighting and just like polarization. When what it can really do is we can use this wonderful tool to explore diverse perspectives, listen to free audiobooks, to lectures, to podcasts, and listen to all kinds of people from all around the world to expand how we see life and what we believe is possible. And a very important thing that can help us on this journey is understanding how the human psyche evolves through studying developmental psychology and value systems. Because a lot of times, conflicts in the world are simply reflections of two opposing value systems or stages of development interfering. Because as you can imagine, if a value system here values X, Y, and Z, and a value system here values something totally opposite, then there's gonna be some conflict there. Unless we understand that we look at the world from various points of view and value various things, and they're neither good or bad, it's just a fact, like first, second, fourth grade don't have inherent value judgments in them or are like a hierarchy that is suppressive. It's just that certain points of view are more conscious, certain points of view are less conscious, they integrate less perspectives and are more closed-minded and ideological, and other stages of development encompass more perspectives and are able to be more flexible and open-minded in how they go about looking at the world and treating other points of view. Because developmental psychology teaches us a very, very important thing. It teaches us that there's integrative stages of development where we learn to integrate previous stages which we're not yet aware of, that there is various levels of development. And these are natural levels of development which have been studied from all around the world. They've literally surveyed many, many people over many years from various different countries. And Ken Wilber actually wrote a book called Integral Psychology, where he shows like over 100 of these systems developed by various different psychologists, and he sort of shows that all of them came up with around 8 major levels of development that the human psyche goes through. And they show extreme similarities of how the human psyche evolves from individualist, and then it swings to collective, and then it values individualist again and goes back to collective values. And that these values can be mapped out and actually are extremely eye-opening to study. And in a world that is constantly changing faster than ever before, it is very, very important to keep in mind open-mindedness and flexibility. And studying developmental psychology will be extremely helpful. It is explained to me many conflicts that are in the world, culture wars between political parties, and you can just look at it and you see, oh, it's value systems clashing, and they're not understanding that they're valuing different things. And what would help them is to see and identify their own worldview, their own value system, and therefore be able to communicate much better. Because the first 4 or 5 stages, they don't yet realize that this is the case. In the first 5 stages, we believe that our point of view, whether it's the scientific or rational point of view, whether it's an egalitarian point of view, whether it's a very traditional, conservative, religious point of view, we all believe that our perspective is pretty much the only one that is true, and the other ones are all insane and nutcases. And if just everyone would surrender and come over to my side, then everything would be fine. Oh, if everyone would be more rational, everything would be fine. Oh, if everyone would be pure and religious, everything would be fine. Oh, if everyone was progressive and egalitarian like me, everything would be perfect. But it just doesn't work out that way when we realize that we can't pull people up or pull people down to our worldview, to our perspective or our level of development, what we value and want right now. Right? It is just like, okay, we have different perspectives, so how can we efficiently communicate between them and see that everyone gets what they want according to their stage of development, their stage of consciousness. And there's various lines of development too. Moral development, spiritual development, anything goes. Cognitive development. And this really helps. It would help our education system enormously too, seeing that various students come from various backgrounds, and we could help them, basically uplift them, show them what they need for the next stage, help them integrate shadows and the positive aspects, help them let go of the negative aspects of their worldview. That would be really, really amazing. That would basically be an integral approach to education, which right now we only teach a very strict scientific view, and a lot of stuff is left out because of that. And many people don't connect to the current education systems around the world simply because there's all these various predisposed value systems that we come into the school with, which stems from our family and our upbringing, right? Or our culture. So, a few examples. For example, in religion, many religious people believe that only their religion is true. And even though some people will say that, oh, my religion says to study other religions, they still believe basically that their religion is the only true one. But what if we started opening up and looking at various traditions and what they say and integrate them all. That would really help us with all the fighting, but that is basically what no religious person wants to do, because that goes against their survival agenda of staying this pure religious person, right? And they say that, for example, science is the devil, it's evil, it's not worth it, it's corrupting the world, separation of state and church is bad. But it would be really helpful to realize that religion could stand lots of development. It could integrate various stages of the spiral of the human developmental models, and it could see how it can connect to the various stages, and it could become a integral religion, or it would basically at that point become spirituality, where it would give people direct techniques to integrate their shadow side, to have direct experiences of spirit, and to verify these things for themselves through techniques, not just believe some blind dogma that somebody said is the truth. And then we would have much less spiritual crises in the world, because the world basically is in a spiritual crisis and a crisis for meaning, right? We're looking for, like, we've lost that connection because we went through that long phase in history with religious trauma, and then we had the scientific revolution, and since then we've sort of been like, okay, what is the meaning now? It's just a mechanical reality. Science says it's just pointless, but there's further perspectives outside all of those paradigms that we are yet to integrate, that are coming on board over the coming years. Very exciting. In science too, many scientific and religious, scientific and rational people, and it's basically a scientific rational religion in a sense, believe that so much in the world is basically nonsense, it's just pseudoscience, and if it can't be scientifically validated, it's just meaningless. But what many of them don't realize is that science is good, science is useful, but that success doesn't equal truth. And if you are interested in the truth and the whole picture, the biggest picture, then you can't leave out certain parts of reality, because the truth is everything. It encompasses absolutely everything at all. Because when you're interested in understanding everything, which I would suggest is the spirit of science, then you can't just say, this is valid ways of investigating reality and this isn't. Because that already assumes that you have the whole truth, that you already know what are valid ways of investigating reality. So science is corrupted by various biases of the rational mind. It wants to be very, very hard-nosed and scientific and objective. And it filters out so many things of the subjective. Basically, all the human stuff is illusion for them and is not integrated. Things like meditation, psychedelics, all of that is not taken into account because their filter is way too strict. Because can you really scientifically validate the scientific method? Can you scientifically validate that way of, that you're going to come up with the whole and ultimate absolute truth through that? Or are you leaving out the majority of the universe and therefore will never come up with the ultimate big picture with that limited way of looking at the world? So there are many limitations still within modern science today that we could overcome if we opened our minds more. And that will hopefully come in the future. There's many open-minded scientists working on that. There's a great quote by Erwin Schrödinger where he says that a blood transfusion from east to west is necessary to save Western science from spiritual anemia. And Albert Einstein also said that, for example, the more he studies physics, the more he's drawn to metaphysics. You know, Thomas Kuhn wrote the book Scientific Revolutions, where he said and showed that science evolves over time, has many paradigm shifts, and it has shifted many times. And it takes a long time before we open ourselves up to what we've discovered as true, and until it percolates down into the culture. And how do we know that we aren't making many of these mistakes right now? That there's more revolutions to come, a yet bigger picture to emerge. Very interesting to think about. So what else do we have? In relationships and arguments, we can put ourselves in the other person's point of view. Look at it from their point of view, look at how we are behaving, look what we're doing, focusing more on our actions instead of blaming people on the outside. Or in cults. What are cults? There's many cults springing up nowadays online. They basically believe that their point of view is the only truth, and that is the only one and absolute truth. But that basically already tells you that they don't, because nobody's in a possession of it. The truth is completely independent of human perception or of any idea, ideology, or philosophy. See, what is really true and absolutely the case doesn't need argument or defense, right? And whenever we feel that inside ourselves, that ideology, that tensing up, that fighting, that arguing, that already gives us a clue and a hint that something is wrong. And cults create that in and out group very strongly. That we are the enlightened and wise ones. Everyone outside our group is deluded and evil and the devil, and we must convert them through our cause. Otherwise the world will go down, and the leader has special powers and we're beneath him. This is all not the case at all. It's just delusion, because although these various, in the relative sense, stages of development exist, in reality, in the absolute sense, we are all equal and the same one consciousness. And in diet too, there's many arguments and debates of what is the right diet, the wrong diet, and we get ideological about what is the one true diet. Well, we don't know what fits different people. How many diets have we actually tried? Let's just stay flexible, stay open-minded, and see what is out there, what feels the best to us, what gives us the most energy, and what kinds of points of view can we explore. I recently started exploring Anthony Williams' work, where he suggests that every morning you drink lemon water, celery juice, and a heavy metal detox smoothie. 5 years ago, I would have never done that. But I've been doing it for over a month, or slowly beginning to integrate all the stuff in his giant book. And it's been completely transforming my consciousness, my baseline level of energy. It is like left behind brain fog, and he suggests various cleanses in there. And it's very interesting, and it was only thanks to open-mindedness that I was able to stumble upon that and integrate it and actually give it a try, which wouldn't have happened if I would have been too ideological about hanging on to my preconceived notions about what the right diet is. Because we can really introspect and feel that closed-mindedness of like trying to cite studies and like pretend as though we really have no clue what is going on. Because basically what I learned by reading over 100 books by now, like the more I know and study, the less I actually know. It feels like, oh my God, like the mystery of the universe is so mind-blowing. I feel less and less inclined to say that I know what it is, what is going on here, the more perspectives I study. And so it's understandable, it's a scary process, but it is also very, very valuable because our life can transform in ways that no culture has taught us so far. Nobody told us this. This is what's so awesome about spiritual work and integrating all these perspectives and self-actualizing our potential more and more, is that we reach levels of life where it's like, wow, there's still so much more I know that I haven't explored, but still life has already gotten so amazing. Crazy how my life feels and is compared to like 5 years ago. I wouldn't have imagined that I'm interested in the topics that I'm interested in now, or doing many of the things I'm open to now. So yeah, it's just extremely important to be flexible in this ever-changing world. Let's just conclude with a beautiful quote by Thich Nhat Hanh, a Zen master, who said basically that when you love a person, love them so that they feel free. And I think that's lacking nowadays a lot, at least when it comes to integrating various points of view. Like, there's so much debating, so much snappiness, especially online. And we don't just sit down together and explore in a not knowing state of what is true, what is possible, and exchange our points of view. You know, in Zen, there's this beautiful parable of like a philosophy professor going to a Zen master and said, "Can you teach me about Zen?" And they go to drink some tea, and the Zen master starts pouring tea into the philosophy professor's cup, and then it just keeps pouring, and it just overflows. And the professor says, "Wait, it's overflowing." And the Zen master smiles calmly and says, "Well, this is with your mind, you know? You first have to empty your mind. If you want to explore all of reality, live the best possible life, we just have to assume that there's many assumptions and worldviews and things we have to let go of. Just like wipe our worldview clean before we can really transform our life. Because as Albert Einstein said, you can't change your life from the same level of consciousness that it is currently in. It requires a different approach, right? And so I hope this video inspired you to keep an open mind, read from many different authors, explore many different domains, talk to more new people, study especially developmental psychology and Ken Wilber's work. I'm going to be doing that more because it's just so inspiring. There's always more to learn. It will totally transform your way of relating to people, seeing debates and arguments and conflicts in the world, and will also open your mind to your potential in life, of what's possible for you. And yeah, also another thing that helps with this is introspection learned through meditation. Mindfulness really, really helps with this too. Staying open-minded and feeling when we are closed-minded and trying to exclude someone because we are biased towards this way of looking at the world. So thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope this was helpful. Leave me a like if it was. Leave me your feedback down below. I'd love to hear from you. And subscribe if you're interested in topics like this, spirituality and self-actualization. Very, very cool that you listened this far if you did. And I'll see you soon with more. Namaste.